Welcome everyone to our week 2 hangout for the CMOT CMOOC. Tonight we've got, well, it's actually morning in the UK. We've got our UK participants joining us and watching along. We've got our awesome Ian Upton all the way from Coventry with us.
Morning.
So, morning Ian. And I'm just having my after dinner cup of tea, but you must be probably having your morning coffee.
I got up rather early to get here for this, and my tea is run out. Maybe get some more in a bit.
Yep. Well, maybe some other people might join us, but if they don't, we're just going to have a bit of a chat. So,
cool. A lot of people here are on holiday, of course, because we're running up to
Easter.
So,
yeah, that was the unfortunate bit of the timing, but you know, there's never the best time. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully people watch later if they like to. So how's things going there in Coventry? Are you getting much interest in CMOT accreditation at all?
We have. I mean, I've talked to a couple of people and also sort of mentioned it in places, and there is actually a bit of interest. I think really it's about getting awareness and people realizing, you know, sort of the usefulness of the CMOT process. And then obviously the accreditation as well is quite a nice way of sort of, you know, putting a badge on your CV kind of thing. But yes, but as you can see, we haven't got them signing up in droves at the moment. But
no, I think it's a bit of a process, and as you say, a lot of it's about awareness and getting people an idea about what it's all about. And I guess that's part of the point of the CMOOC, is just to give people an overview. So even if people are just following along sort of peripherally, I think that's fine. Be nice if people were a bit more active, but you know, we can't force people to be.
I think what is interesting, I noticed we've had a new sort of department here, or new sort of section of the university, which is our online sort of facility. And where they've been advertising for positions, they've actually put CMOLT as one of the accreditations that they would see as advantageous. Okay. I thought that was quite interesting. I've not actually seen that before. So again, I think the sort of, how can I say, the status of the letters is creeping up. So again, may get some more interest.
Yeah, and I think for myself, it's not just about the accreditation. It's really about giving people an experience of using a variety of tools that perhaps they haven't engaged with before, and being able to reflect on that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, let me introduce week 2. I'm going to click on screen sharing so we can actually have a bit of a look, and then we'll just sort of, you know, discuss this as we go along. So feel free to ask questions, interject, etc. Hopefully you see my screen now.
Yes, I can see it perfectly, Tom. And just to clarify the question that I had last week, because I know this was my experience, that the CMOOC is quite a multifaceted animal, and so for people who are just sort of dipping into this stuff to begin with, this is the point to start, isn't it? Is actually the WordPress blog? Is that correct?
Yeah, the WordPress blog is the hub, so everything links off here. Yep. So there's really 2 main areas for people to look at. The WordPress hub, which is the outline. It links to all of our resources and all the tools we're using, and the Google Plus community. So there's a link on the WordPress hub to the Google Plus community. And it's the discussion forum. So the WordPress hub, people can't modify. We're encouraging people to create their own WordPress portfolios for, you know, curating their evidence and creating their own portfolios. But what they can contribute to is the Google Plus community. So we're encouraging people to join that, and that's part of the sign up as well. You can see the 60 people that have, which is really nice. And there's quite a few from over your way.
Yes.
Don't know if you recognise many of them.
Recognise some of those names. Yeah. Excuse me.
So the other thing, just we've been getting, click the right link, getting people to do is, if they feel like it, is put themselves on our collaborative map. So this is our Google map, and you can see we haven't got 60 people there. We've got more like 40 or so, I think. But it's just nice to see where people are all around the world, which is great, and to get a little bit of sense of a global community happening.
Yep.
Cool. So anyway, back to the WordPress, which is cmooc.wordpress.com. We're breaking this up into weekly activities, kind of what we're calling it. Really, it's just kind of discussion starters, get people thinking, and these are all arranged around the core elements of a CMOP portfolio. So last week was contextual statement, which is, why are you a teacher or involved in teaching and learning? What motivates you? What's your background, etc. And this week
I've seen. Oh, sorry, Tom. I was just going to say, we seem to have got some contextual statements have popped up in the project bank, which I was having a look at.
Yeah. So we've got about 9 there so far. So that's linked off the site as well. So we've got what we're calling the project bank, and that just takes us to a form where people can put links to whatever they want to share. So if it's a blog post, if it's a video, YouTube video, whatever it is an example of content that they're putting into their portfolios under each area. So we've currently got 9 examples of contextual statements. We've got 4 examples of people exploring operational issues, and each week you can sort of see something there, which is great. So that's the project bank. So so that is where people can share ideas, examples, and hopefully other people read those and think that they could share some of their own. So today, this week, it really is looking at exploring operational issues, which is kind of a weird title for this section of the portfolio. But what it breaks down to, if you look at the actual CMOP guidelines, it's understanding the use of learning technology. So what does that mean? Well, there's 3 areas. Demonstrating an understanding of the constraints and benefits of different technologies. So, what are the issues, what are the hurdles, what are the benefits, why would we use technology, in the first place? Should it be about the technology? Should it actually be about the learning to start with? And, how do you position the technology?
I'm popping my hand up here, Tom, because I'm trying to find a way of asking a question without sounding as if I'm just interrupting you. Just a question on that. There's a big issue here at Coventry at the moment about where we store data. So, for example, a lot of the technology that we're trying to encourage use of in the classroom is cloud-based. And of course, it gets stored on the cloud in various places, because the university has policies about where we can store data and what kinds of data. Would that be the kind of issue that we could raise in that first section?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really current with, for example, Facebook right now.
Oh, yes, goodness, yes.
All the data that they've let everyone have access to. But of course, everyone signed away their data anyway when they signed up for Facebook. So I don't know why people are getting upset. But it's just much more obvious now that their data is being used.
Yeah, it's a tradable commodity.
Yeah.
That's cool, because here, we have, and it was a real issue that I had, because I try and encourage people to use these different applications that are appearing, and some of them are absolutely fabulous. You take something like Adobe Spark, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But of course, it stores its data, I think, on American servers, and of course, so we have policies here at Coventry University which limits us in what we can do. And I think it doesn't stop you doing things, but if you're not aware of it, you can get yourself into hot water. Or the spin side to it, which I find, which certainly affects my job, is that people get misinformation about it. Oh, we can't use anything because it's outside of the policy, kind of thing. So
yeah, that's kind of almost fake news, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So I think that's a core issue, and that's the sort of thing that would be great to really explore and reflect on in your portfolio around this.
And from the CMOOC act, I'd be really interested to see what people put up. Not only, I think, as a way of exploring that for yourself, but I think comparing different institutions. I'd be really interested about the setup that you've got down with you, say, Tom, or somebody who is perhaps in a different country or culture. Are they facing the same issues in the same way?
Yeah, probably not to the extent that you are, but we do. That is a hurdle for some people. For most people, I guess if they've thought about it, that's the trade-off between the access, the flexibility, etc., and the fact that their data is being hosted by someone else. I guess what we try to do is advise people to make good choices. So that's part of the reason why we don't endorse Facebook for education. We prefer people. Well, we say something like Google or Apple you know, or even host your own WordPress site is probably a better idea. So just an example, the project bank is self-hosted. So this is the WordPress software that we've put on our own server.
Right.
But we're not actually asking people to put content on there. What we're asking people to put is a link to their content. So your content will live somewhere else, or it could be on YouTube. It could be on your own, you know, server. What you're putting here is a link in a description. And if I just, for example, go into these, this issue came up last time we did the CMOOC as well, was the issue of Creative Commons. And so we have a little form up here to submit your projects. And in the form, you choose which area that you know, what type of example you're putting there. You put in a title, you put a description, you put a URL link to it, give yourself some stars for a rating, give it a thumbnail image, and then you can choose your Creative Commons license. So that's up to you. So, you know, we've let people choose their own Creative Commons license there.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice, in fact, you know, again, it's these operational issues and thinking about things. That is a really nice solution you've got there, because I guess if you hadn't thought it through, you might just be tempted to host people's stuff yourself. And, you know, that can sort of bring all sorts of issues. But here, what you're doing is, so for students or whatever, they can use whatever tool they want, or lecturers can use whatever tool they want, and take responsibility for the, you know, the implications of that. But all we're doing here, or all you're doing, is collating it in a way that means that actually you don't have to worry about it. And I think, you know, that's a lesson we can take out, you know, into our own practice as well. Anyway,
so
I'm going off on a tangent here.
No, it's good. I think it's really, really interesting. So I guess what we're trying to do is mentor and demonstrate, you know, what we think is reasonably best practice. But this is a changing environment. It's going to change all the time. That's just the nature of technology. So the second part of operational issues is sort of providing evidence and reflecting on your technical knowledge and ability and use of learning technology. And if you go through guidelines, there's a whole variety of ways that you can demonstrate that. So it's up to what your experience is as to what you provide as evidence. And then the final part, the third part of that, is how are you supporting your colleagues, your students in the deployment of learning technologies? What are the issues around that? And certainly for my role and your role, Ian, I mean, that's core to what we're doing, is we're supporting other people.
Job.
Yeah.
Just a question on the previous thing, the evidence, Tom. I mean, for example, I don't know how widespread this is, but I'm quite a fan of lynda.com, and I know it's been coming in to a lot of universities. In fact, at Coventry now, we get access to its students and staff. Is that the kind of thing, a sort of lynda.com certificate, or does it need to be more educationally or sort of, you know, institutionally based? What kind of certification would CMALT be looking for?
So in their guidelines, it's pretty broad. So they say evidence might include copies of certificates. You don't need the original from training courses. So yeah, you could argue that lynda.com is relevant. Screenshots of your work, you know, a note from academic or support staff. So we do get people to do little videos.
Right, yeah.
You know, and I know you've done some videos as well. Certainly screenshots. If you're using social media, then generally that is archived. So I use Twitter a lot, and so I use Twitter Moments to archive an event. You know, the Twitter stream, the conversation around it, and then that can be embedded into my portfolio.
So it's quite open then.
Yeah.
Just when I saw certificates, I thought, oh, do I have to do something specific?
No, I think that's just if you have done certificates, then that's direct evidence. The other direct evidence you can put in is any research around the scholarship for teaching and learning that you've done. But you don't have to be an educational researcher to get a CMALT portfolio. So the core thing with each section of the portfolio is twofold. One is providing evidence of what you've done, and then the second thing is reflecting upon that. So the core thing is what is the impact of that?
Right.
How has that impacted your practice? How has it impacted the people you work with? And if you are a lecturer, how has that impacted your students? So evidence and reflection, those are the two key elements of any part of a CMALT portfolio. So one of the things we suggested people do this week, just as a way of getting them thinking of perhaps creating a visual element that they could embed into their portfolio and then reflect on, is this idea of doing a digital literacy mapping exercise, the visitor and resident map. And I'm sure you've come across this over there. It's pretty popular in the UK.
Yes.
So there is a hashtag. I mean, it's relatively unknown over here, so it's a pretty new idea over this way. But there is the hashtag VNR, and if you put that into Twitter, you'll find a lot of examples of visitor-resident maps. And it is, of course, Dave White from over there who came up with this. So what we're suggesting people do, just as a really, really quick, simple exercise and sort of a brainstorm, is to create a map, visitor-resident map, and then sort of reflect on that, so what is the difference between your map and your colleagues? What's the difference between your map and your students? What are the implications? How could you maybe change where some of the elements lie? So we've got a couple of examples that we've put into the discussion forum on the Google Plus community. We've got a little video. So I just did this live with a couple of lecturers the other day, just to show you how quick we can do it. And there they are. That's how quick it is.
I like the idea with the whiteboard. It's very
it's
very immediate.
Tactile.
Yeah, because you start thinking, do the diagram and whatever, and that's a nice way to actually. And how do you feel about doing it collaboratively, Tom? I imagine actually chatting this through with somebody would be quite a productive
well, in this
way
case,
of
it was collaborative. It was the two lecturers, and I was giving them feedback as well, because I said, I think I've finished. And it's like, no, there's a whole lot of other things you use that you've just forgotten at the spur of the moment, sort of thing. So, and here's their map that they created. So there's two different colors. Red was Laurent and blue was Amanda, and just give you a bit of an idea of some of the tools they use and how they use them. So I guess with the axes, visitor is the area of tools and profiles and online tools that you maybe dip in and out of, that you don't, you're not there all the time. It's just stuff you've occasionally used. Yeah, and then on the other end is stuff you use all the time. So that's where you're resident. It's part of your daily workflow, part of the way you do things. And then the other axis, this is different to what Dave's done. He did institutional and personal, I think, but I prefer. So I've modified his map to professional and social. I just like that better. But anyway, you can do it however you like.
Absolutely. Interesting stuff on there. I noticed there's sorry, I'm pointing here. You can see me pointing, but you can't see what I'm pointing at. Is the Vine? I haven't seen Vine for a long time. Is that still going?
Kind of. It's kind of a stripped down thing.
Yeah, I used it when it first came out, and then it sort of disappeared. Anyway, it's nice. It's interesting if it's still out there.
Yeah, and the other one that Amanda and Laurent have used a lot is BAM User. Now, it doesn't appear on here because it's just been shut down. So they've just started exploring as an alternative Periscope. So you can see they put Periscope there for live video streaming.
So is that what the other application did as well? I'm not familiar with
BAM
that.
User, yes, it was a live video streaming tool. Worked really well. I think they got bought out by someone, and the free account version is gone.
I really like Periscope. We've had I think you've been to some of my sessions where I run these like little short lunchtime technology sessions, light bites, and I started periscoping them, and it's quite good fun. We had 3 interns who sounds crazy, but used to run it for me, hold the camera and moderate it and all that sort of stuff, and it really started to pick up. It was quite a powerful way of running little sessions. So
see, that would be a really good thing to reflect on, Ian.
Yeah.
Well, under the under operational issues, on how you're using technology and the framework that you've put around it, because people can sort of go, well, how would I use Periscope?
Yeah,
that would be.
It's interesting because I hadn't thought of doing that, because we put a lot of work into it, and the operational stuff was like, how do we use it? So I ended up with a team of 3 people because I needed somebody to hold the camera, somebody to moderate, because you can't moderate and teach at the same time, and stuff like that. And then the other side of it, of course, was we ran, into a brick wall of institutional issues with it, so doing live streaming of students from within a classroom environment. So yeah, there was all sorts of interesting things that popped out of that. So yeah, maybe I should explore that.
Yeah, so I think you are doing good stuff. It's just you often forget that you are, and you don't actually record that. So that's the thing with the portfolio, is thinking ahead, curating what you're doing, providing evidence trail. And just as an example, I was sort of thinking while you're talking there, Todd Stretton here is one of the physio lecturers that I work with, and he's been using If Then Then That. And Evernote quite extensively, and I said to him, well, why don't you do a little tutorial for people on how to use it and how you found it? And so he did a blog post and he's linked it in. So same thing for you, do a little blog post, a little how-to, a tutorial, and then suddenly you're collaborating with people. It's evidence that you're actually working with people with technology and teaching and learning.
And very valid in terms of the CMALT accreditation as well, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Something for nothing.
So that was just kind of one of the exercises we suggested for this week, was that digital literacy VNR map as a way of brainstorming, of getting people thinking. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing now. We can just go back to talking, really.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've had some really good thoughts there, and hopefully stuff that people can apply to their own practice as well. So yeah, get that blog post done on Periscope and share it. That would be an awesome example.
That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? That'd be cool. I'd have to do it outside the university, though, right?
You could even Periscope the example.
Yeah, that's it. I could Periscope myself. Periscope. Oh yeah, starts to get a bit daft. There we go. Yeah. I'll tell you what we did. There's something very interesting. Sorry, Tom, shut me up if I'm just sort of waffling on. But there's a project here which is I can't remember the name of the project, but basically it's enabling theatre students to rehearse Shakespeare. A group of them in UK, a group of them in Finland. Tom Gorman is the guy who's leading it. Really interesting project. But I was involved with that right at the beginning when we were setting up the technology. It linked into something I'd done in the past. And one of the craziest experiences I had, we had this screen where basically it's in front of a large back projected cinema screen, and it's like sort of super Skype, and you can see sort of full sized body people on the other side, so it's like just talking to them one-to-one in a space. And we were doing this when we were setting up, and then people started to FaceTime each other in the space, so you could see people sort of on either side, but then people were FaceTiming and periscoping within the same space at the same time to enable them to have personal conversations. It's crazy. Anyway, there we go. I digress.
Yeah, that would be a great example to post into the community there for people to have a look at. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got a blog post. So what I'll do is I'll link that up.
Yeah.
So it's not about what I've just talked about, but it gives you an insight into the technology.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I've probably taken up enough of your morning, and does that kind of make sense? Do you think around the operational issues area of the portfolio?
It's really I must admit, Tom, it's really clarified it for me, and I think the again, I teach this stuff, and so often when you teach this stuff, you tend not to do it yourself. And I'm looking at that whiteboard idea of doing this visitors and residents thing, and I think very powerful way of getting insight into what you use, but then actually thinking about stuff like we've tapped into one of the things I've done, and I hadn't considered it in relation to operational stuff, so it makes it very meaningful and real. So that's been extremely useful.
Yeah, cool.
Very insightful.
Okay, well, I better let you go and have your breakfast.
Yeah, I need it.
So thanks for catching up with us, and we'll catch up next Friday, which is after Easter.
Yeah, I was going to say I may have a problem next time. I might be able to join us. I'm actually working in Dubai next week, so
but that's where we can use the technology.
That's it. A little bit closer to you.
The internet.
So if I may, I'm not sure what my timetable is, but if I'm in the slot, I'll be here. If not, it will be the week after.
Okie dokie. Hey, thanks for joining us in. Cool.
Bye-bye. See you soon.